the concept that you don't have to die to be a drowning victim. So just be aware of that. And then specific to Utah, there were 47 fatal drownings in Utah in 2020, which was an increase from 2019. Some of that we kind of attributed to the increase of people using our lakes and rivers, just due to COVID and getting outside and things like that. But we haven't seen that fall back down to like 2018, 2017 numbers. So we're still at an increase. And we don't have official numbers for those yet. All of our drowning statistics are a little delayed just because it takes a while to get those taken care of. And then we saw most teens and adults who we're looking at. We have a lot of non-fatal drownings that happen with kids, but teens and adults are who are fatally drowning in Utah, and then it's not happening in pools. It's our lakes and waterfronts. So here's some specific Utah information. This was provided to us from Mark Herrera. I'm sure some of you work with. He's awesome. But I kind of want to look at the water source section of this for 21 and 22. We're seeing a lot of drownings happening at pools, but they're not fatal drownings. Same with bathtubs. We're seeing a lot of exposure to drowning in bathtubs, but the fatal number is, proportional. But our lakes, our fatal numbers are much higher, lakes and rivers. And I think that this year, especially, that's something we need to be aware of with all the runoff that's happening. And then if we look at kind of by age in Utah, these are drownings, not necessarily fatal drownings, but we can see that our kids up to 4 years old are at very high risk. And then we have kind of a gap, and then it's a lot of teens and adults. Most of these, and I'm sure Ty will talk about this a little more, are life jacket, waterfront drownings. So something to be aware of. So what are we doing about it, I guess, is the next question. And UDPC has started, one of the main things we're doing is social media videos. So I'm hoping my sound works for this slide. Jamie, I'll kind of keep an eye on you. If it's not, just be like, hey, woo, but we'll see. So we started with these social media videos that we kind of put out every Water Wednesday in May. So as Jamie mentioned, May's National Water Safety Month. So we have been putting these out, and we'd love to see you guys engaged with those, but I'll share one of them that's just a quick one.
Hey everyone, this is Alan again with the Utah Drowning Prevention Coalition, back with some more water safety tips. Water can be dangerous, but that does not mean that we shouldn't have fun in, on, and around the water. There are steps that we need to take to make sure that we stay safe around the water and have fun, and that's whether you are old or young. So parents, gather the kids again, and let's talk and practice about these water safety tips. And kids, make sure your parents are listening. This week's lesson is just as important for them as it is for you. Whenever we go swimming, there are some important people that we need to have with us to ensure our safety. Let's see if some of my buddies can tell us about who these people are and how they can keep us safe.
I'm Devin, and I love to go swimming, but swimming is much more fun and safe with my buddy Megan. When I swim with a friend, we can play and have fun together. My buddy can also help watch out for me and keep me out of trouble. We can remind each other to follow the rules and stay in safe places. If I get into a dangerous situation, they can reach or throw something to help me or get a grown-up. Parents, whenever you send your kiddos out in the water, make sure they know who their buddy is. Kids, make sure to keep your buddy close by and safe. Who else should we have with us?
A water watcher. Buddies are great, but we also need to have an adult whose only job is to watch the swimmers in your group. The water watcher can help prevent swimmers from getting into dangerous situations or can help in an emergency. Whenever you're around water, but especially in unlifeguarded pools or waterfronts, designate an adult to be a water watcher to actively supervise at all times. The water watcher cannot be distracted by phones, books, conversations, or other intrusions. They have an important job to do. Take turns with other adults to be the water watcher on duty, just like the lifeguard. Hey, that reminds me of a third important person.
Lifeguards.
Not every pool or waterfront has a lifeguard.
Wait, where'd he go?
Whenever possible, choose places that have these amazing rescuers on duty. Lifeguards are there to keep us safe by enforcing rules,
No running.
stopping unsafe behaviors,
Hey, not do that.
and responding in an emergency. They're our friends and we need to listen to their direction. But lifeguards are not babysitters or replacements for a water watcher. They have a big responsibility.
And we can use all your help in keeping everyone safe. Lifeguards are the last best defense against drowning. Water watchers are the first.
Thanks, friends! Our goal is to make sure that everyone has a safe swim no matter where they are swimming. So grab a buddy, grab a water watcher, and grab a lifeguard, and have a
I think it says have a great summer. Guess you don't get to hear the end of it. So we've made about, I don't know, 10 of these videos over the last couple of years, put them out on social media. So that was kind of our first step. First thing we did was just reach out to the masses. In moving forward, we've kind of narrowed our focus down. So the things we're focusing on 2023 and 2024 are education for children who are at risk. So like I said, we partnered with the Utah Autism Council and the UVU Center for Autism. And what we're doing is kind of a train the trainer program. So we are bringing in out-of-state people to work with swim instructors and pool managers to offer swim lessons for kids with disabilities, whether that's one-on-one private lessons or a time of day when it's less distracting for the kids, or just different options. So working with kids with autism and other disabilities is kind of one of our big focuses, because we know they are more drawn to water. And typically that ends up being elopement. So they're leaving their parents and wandering away and finding water. And so just the education and water safety piece of that, as well as some basic swimming skills. The second thing we're focusing on with that is we're doing the train the trainer programs, and then we are creating a swim lesson database on our website. It should be up hopefully in the next month for the summer, where people can look at a map of Utah and say, oh, I'm looking for swim lessons that are group lessons or private lessons or kids with disabilities or adult swim lessons or whatever they are, and they can kind of filter a map by their region and area. So that's something we're really excited about this summer that's coming up. And that's not just public pools, that's any pool that fills out our little Google form will get them on the list. So we're trying to make that accessible for everyone. So if you want to do IFR rescue lessons or something like that, those will also be available on that database. And then our second focus is life jackets for everyone. That's something we're working with the state parks to host life jacket awareness days at the lakes. We're working with the Utah Lake Authority to do a partnership with their paddle with care event that's actually this Saturday. We're really excited to go down there and talk about life jacket safety and life jacket loaner stations with them. Safe Kids has been awesome doing that with us as well. We're working on creating a couple new life jacket loaner stations. We've got some awesome programs coming in with life jacket donations. So I know IHC and primaries have been awesome to help us with those. And then we're also starting a community donation program with the Coast Guard, where we will have life jacket drop-off stations at pools and local facilities, as well as maybe some like Dick's and Shields and sporting goods stores where people purchase life jackets, where if they turn in the life jacket, they maybe get an incentive for it, whether it's a pass for the day to the pool or a discount on their new life jacket, something like that. And then the donated life jackets will be taken to the Coast Guard Auxiliary, who will inspect them and make sure they're usable. And then we'll put those out at loaner stations around the state. So that'll be a really awesome program when we get that up and swinging. Should be this summer. So we're really excited about that. And then our third focus is just partnering and supporting other efforts. So this video was done last year in conjunction with Ty's office and just the Outdoor Governors group. So I'll let you watch that real quick and then go.
Hi, I'm Utah Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson. Every year in Utah, hundreds of thousands of people visit our lakes, reservoirs, and rivers. And I want to make sure that if you're one of them, that you have fun and you do it safely. Studies show that around 85% of drowning deaths are preventable with a life jacket. That's why Utah encourages all those who enjoy our waters to wear a properly fitting life jacket for any water sport. Utahns, and especially boaters, should participate in a boating safety course as well. Be safe and recreate responsibly on the water this summer, and visit boating.utah.gov to learn
more. I don't know why my sound's cutting off the last word. Sorry, guys. So all of that goes to show that I think we're accomplishing so much more just working with people. So I appreciate all the support we've gotten in that regard. So what we can do together is just be advocates for water safety, know about barriers, know about supervision, know about water competency and life jackets. And then your guys' role obviously is the emergency preparedness role and the importance of care after drowning submersions or things like that. The biggest thing is watching the water. I know it sounds silly, but we totally print off these water watcher cards from Safe Kids. They're awesome. It helps you to just have a physical reminder that you're the one responsible for watching. My family started having one around and passing it when we're at pool parties and things like that. And it just helps be a reminder that you're the one responsible. You can take turns like the lifeguards do. It doesn't have to be you all the time. I mean, if you're a water safety junkie and your family's not, it might be you all the time, but just being aware of that and being a barrier for your kids. And then obviously knowing CPR, you guys know that that's important, and just being able to take care of something if something does happen. So what's coming up in 2023 for us, we already talked about May being National Water Safety Month. Friday is Wear Your Life Jacket to Work Day. We'd love to invite all of you to participate in that. Post a picture, hashtag it UDPC or Wear Your Life Jacket to Work Day, whatever you want to do. And then Saturday is our Paddle with Care event. June and July, we've got all our Utah Lake visits. This summer, we're doing those Train the Trainer education pieces. August is Utah Lifeguard Games, which is the really cool annual event they've been doing for about 30 years, where the lifeguards from all over the state get together and compete and make sure their skills are good. It's a really fun event. It takes place at Kearns Oker Park. They're awesome to sponsor that and host it. And then September 27th, we have our annual golf tournament fundraiser for the Drowning Prevention Coalition, and our stakeholders meeting in October. If anyone's interested in getting involved, those are great ways to do that. So just to hype you up, I mean, who doesn't want to wear their life jacket to work? We've got everybody involved. So if you've got a really cool picture, we'd love to see it. And then I'll throw the link in the chat for our golf tournament fundraiser. We're looking for golfers. Our registration is open right now. So we'd love to see you there. Golfers and sponsors, if anyone feels so inclined. So thanks so much. I'm going to hand it over to you, Ty.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm just going to say, if you can see me wiggling around, I'm getting some resistance type of work on my biceps, holding this tough book, try to keep it in place. I'm actually sitting on a ledge against the window at the Harvey's Hotel in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. So you can see Lake Tahoe in the back there. It's been a whirlwind. I don't really have too much of a presentation today, but I'll go through and introduce myself and such. It's been a crazy 7 days. I'm over 3,100 miles in travel, and there's some people in some of the places I've been have seen me more than my wife and kids have with stuff. So anyway, I'm Ty Hunter. I am the boating program manager for the Division of Outdoor Recreation. Used to be formerly the Division of Parks and Recreation, but it's almost coming up on 2 years ago. The legislature split the Division of Parks and Recreation into the divisions of state parks and the divisions of outdoor recreation. And as Mikkel basically had mentioned with it, the governor's office of outdoor recreation joined in with us. So it's been an awesome learning experience, tiring with that being said, but hopefully today I can bring you a little bit of some insights and stuff. It comes from 25 years of either enforcement and or management of the boating program there, and just seeing the statistics and seeing things firsthand. Also, I lead a recovery team with our underwater ROV, which is a little robot that we do some pretty deep dives, high elevation, and just other technical places where we can try to bring closure to families that have lost loved one and drowning incidences or traumatic incidences with boat crashes and stuff that would occur. So to lead into some stuff, Mikkel, thank you so much for having those slides. It's just such a great thing that you've had there. I wanted to specify out, and I mean, everything here really, it falls around the most simple task of this is, well, I should say there's two. Watch your kids, watch the people that you're around, take care of them, and make sure that you know where they are at and what they're doing. And that goes especially for the youth, but that goes on up to us of our age too, is we got to have a buddy when we're out getting on the water and doing things out there. But as I kind of sell it with this, the best life insurance policy you can take out on yourself is spending that $100 and buying a good life jacket. and wearing that. And I want to try to impress upon you that at least in my lifetime, I've seen seat belts change. It was either some vehicles didn't even have them in them. But a lot of times, I grew up with mom's arm slamming against my chest, as the vehicle is braking hard. And now it's to the point that, we're all clicking in our, clicking in our not our life jacket, but our seatbelt, and we're driving around locally, even long trips. It's just everywhere, and we're there. And I look at those usage and those numbers of compliance in with seatbelts, and I'm going, wow, that is so cool. But we watch all these people drive to our lakes, our reservoirs, the riverways with their seatbelt on, and then they take it off, and then they don't want to put on their seatbelt for the water, their life jacket, and take care of that. So that's the big thing that I kind of put in, and I'm very passionate about, if we can, is to make sure that people are wearing that. As you could see, as you'd seen on Mikhail's slide, there was a pretty good discrepancy between the ages of, I think it was 8 and was it 18 was the one. I can't remember how it broke around with that. And that falls right into harmony with an item that they call the X effect. There's the X effect is, you can actually find it on the LV project that deals with grieving families that have lost ones in water related drownings or incidents that occur. It's a great thing that's basically puts in there. It has an X. It basically shows that children 8 years of age and lower, they have a higher risk of situations occurring in pools, bathtubs. It's more of the in-community type of situations that are there. And then we start seeing from that 8 beyond, that level increasing of those that we are losing to drowning in open water in our lakes and reservoirs and on our riverways. And that shows with our statistics that we have. Last year's statistics were boating related, so therefore they were out on a boat and drowned. We had 5 boating related fatalities, 2 of which were paddlecraft, didn't take their jackets out with them. And they're just, all of them are sad as can be, as we see that, because they were preventable. 3 of them again were departure from boats, swimming around the boat, that just left it and never got back to their boat. This year kind of is going to set our average. Usually we have an average between 80 to 85% of individuals could have been saved. Well, last year 100% of them could have been saved if they would have worn a life jacket in that circumstance there. So I mean, there was one that may have, because of the time of day, if I'm going to armchair quarterback it, might have succumbed to hypothermia. With that was our youngest victim on Fish Lake. With it, and that actually occurred somewhere right around, I got to go back and remember in my memory, about 4 a.m. in the morning, with that. So we think that could potentially, if there was a jacket worn, that both individuals may have succumbed to hypothermia if they wouldn't have had assistance come by with that. But again, it's staggering to see 80% to 100% in our state that we have that, and our life jacket compliance does not go up no matter what we have done and how we've been doing things. So that just means that we've got to do more. We've got to find more avenues to get out, and we've got to find new ways that it's not the government telling somebody what to do. Is we've got to make it to where it is their idea to wear their jacket instead of being told to wear their jacket. With that, and I just got to say that it's I think it's something that we can look at and see what we can do to get that voluntary wear rate that hovers right about 6.5 to 6.8% voluntary wear in the state of Utah. That is a little bit higher than the national average, but not by much. So it's great. We don't really see on our lakes and reservoirs a lot of youth small children drowned. And a lot of that, especially in the boating realm, is because they are required to wear a life jacket. And mom or dad or whoever the operator of the boat will get a ticket if they don't have a life jacket on their child. And so that compliance is really well. But it seems to be that we see that 13 years of age and older, they've already done their rite of passage, and then they don't have to adhere to it anymore. They don't have to wear their jacket anymore. And that's pretty sad that we have that cutoff time. I am going to say statistically, we see where our life jackets have saved lives and have cut, incidents down to where we've lost lives to drowning, is Causey Reservoir. Causey Reservoir is the only body of water in the state of Utah that is a mandatory wear of life jackets. I've said that times before in this series, but it is one that is just there. Causey is up Ogden Canyon on off of Highway 39, and it's cold, it's steep, and it just eats people up and doesn't want to give them up too easily, just because the higher elevation and the coldness of the water, it's hard to find them. So Weber County did a wonderful thing to cut down on their search and rescues and created an ordinance that is a wear only in that body of water. And we don't see any really incidents of drowning in there that are not voluntary. We'll just say that with that. So anyway, to kind of move on to some things, I got right in and digging into some things here, talking a little bit about, some of my travel. Reason why I'm in Lake Tahoe today is because this the Western States Boating Administrators Association's conference in Lake Tahoe. State of Nevada is hosting it. We have representatives such as I from as far east as Kansas, kind of drawing that line, Kansas, Texas, Oklahoma, and then we go out as far as Guam to come here, and we're sharing ideas and challenges and successes and innovations of what each entity has been doing. And so we can try to bring that home and see if we can implement that and work along. We work, side by side with the United States Coast Guard. So this is really quite a cool experience to where we can go and see and do this. But anyway, I'm just out of anything. If anybody had any questions or anything of me, I'll quit droning on and pass off to the next speaker here with that. But I know there was the one question is we had that, and I know Mikkel hit it as nationally, and I will tell you, Utah really kind of plays right in that level, really close. Sometimes we're a little bit above, sometimes we're a little bit below, but we play right along on that national standard, and we need to change that. Our great state of Utah, we do things very well in our state, and we need to see what we can do on getting our public to take that extra step and protecting themselves and their loved ones. And I just say we love people coming out on the water, but the most important thing is we want them going home. So there we go. Thank you.
Thanks, Ty. Yeah, Lindy, we'll turn it over to you, and you want to introduce yourself and give everybody a little bit of your background for those that don't know you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Lindy Kirchner, and I am the Trauma Outreach and Education Coordinator for Primary Children's. My background is all emergency medicine. So I fell in love with the team, the blood, guts, gore, all of that. It was my absolute passion. And then trauma has been where I landed for the longest time. So I'm really excited to be here today and to chit chat with you because I'm going to bring kind of the hospital perspective. So thank you so much, Mikkel and Ty, for sharing your expertise in your world, because I think it's really hard to understand that there's all of these different entities that work together to provide safety for our community. So I love hearing from all of our community partners. I'm going to just, number one, tell you that no matter what we can do inside of a hospital, there's no replacement for prevention. And if you get nothing out of this presentation today, that's the one thing I want you to walk away with. Prevention is 100% cure. So have a water watcher. Think about all of those tips that you can do to make your family, your community safer. Okay, so what happens if that doesn't work out, right? if perchance you come upon a patient who is hypothermic and drowning, or had a cardiac arrest due to hypothermia. So I'm going to just go over a couple topics or a couple ideas that relate to this. Let's see, there we go. Okay, have you guys ever heard the saying, they're not dead until they're warm and dead? It's a really funny thought when you think about this, when you're like, sorry, what? Why do I care if my patient is warm, if they don't have a pulse? I've been resuscitating for them for a very long time. I don't care, right? Like, it seems like it's about time to stop throwing in the kitchen sink and call it a day, right? There's just that tiny caveat with hypothermia, and this is why. So I simplified this completely. So yes, if you're wondering if some of these are way simplified, it's true. The first thing, hypothermia slows the circulation throughout the body. And when you start to think about how it slows the circulation, that means blood oxygen, that means nutrients, everything like that has been slowed inside this body. It actually reduces pain and pain reception. Shock, it lessens the body's oxygen requirements. But the number one thing that hypothermia does for a medical provider is it buys us time. The perfect scenario with one of these patients who has a situation like our community right now, where we have this rising rivers, it's mountain runoff, so that means it's icy cold water, right? The perfect scenario for these patients is that they would have a hypothermic event and then their heart would stop, not opposite, okay? So, as I've mentioned, I kind of alluded this to earlier, why should we even try? If our patient is cold, if our patient has arrested, why should we continue to resuscitate them? Some of these statistics are a little sobering because outside of the hospital, the chance of surviving a cardiac arrest is 10%. Inside the hospital, it's only 25%. So as much as we feel like we have all the resources in the world, there are just some of those obstacles, some of those comorbidities or situations that we cannot rise above. In a study, this was really interesting. When they talked about specifically hypothermic cardiac arrest, there are multiple studies that outline and supported the idea that, again, when your patient freezes first, so becomes hypothermic, and then their heart stops, there's a good outcome possible. So the most recent study that supported this said that if a patient survives 5 days after their hypothermic cardiac arrest, they have a 75% chance of survival. So personally, I thought that was amazing and maybe a little tad bit of magic. When you think about this, in my world, okay, my world is completely pediatrics. I'm spoiled, I work with kids and I love kids and it's great. So when I was looking for case studies that talked about these hypothermic drowners, I specifically looked for children. I looked for patients that came from primary children's, and I did them pre-2000. So in 1986, a 2-year-old female fell into Bells Canyon Creek, was under the water for over an hour. In 1991, a 9-year-old female was a female passenger in a car. The car drove off a road and was submerged for 90 minutes in 20 feet of water. The mother found an air pocket in the back seat and then held the child's head above inside that air pocket, so the child was breathing, but then also becoming hypothermic. Surprisingly, both of these patients pre-2000 had very positive outcomes. The one has absolutely zero deficits and is kind of the hallmark reason why primary children's continue to pursue their ECMO program. So why don't we make this happen, right? If we can make this magic happen, if we can basically revive our patients, why aren't we doing it? So when you look at kind of that chain of survival and you think about, oh, I need help, right? So I'm going to call 911. We're going to start CPR. If I have an AED, of course, I'm going to use an AED. I need EMS to come help. And then, of course, there's hospital care. And hopefully that means that we got the right help in the right time and in the right place. So there's one caveat to this, and that's our hypothermic patients, because when you talk about an EMS response, they're trained to take your patient to the closest hospital. So my patient's not breathing, I'm going to go anywhere I can, stabilize that patient, and then seek higher care. There are just 4 classes of patients that we ask that come directly to primary children's. And one of these is our hypothermic patients. This is the core temp less than 30 degrees with or without a pulse. This is the expedited transport criteria that's posted by the Utah Pediatric Trauma Network. If you are familiar with the Utah Pediatric Trauma Network, it was founded in 2018, and they really are trying to do a statewide trauma system to track and measure pediatric trauma outcomes in order to improve our pediatric trauma care. Okay, so one of the reasons that we ask for this type of patient, so your patient fell in a river, your patient did something else, and is hypothermic and is arresting, has a core temp less than 30 degrees Celsius. The reason we would want them directly transported to, say, primary children's is because they require specific specialty care. There are not very many, even level 1 trauma centers that support pediatric patients on ECMO, and primary children's is one of those. Okay, so the patient finally arrives. Okay, this is actually our algorithm for hypothermia and hypothermia cardiac arrest. So the number one thing you'll see is that, of course, there's inclusion criteria. I think that's gold standard across the board, right? We have to have exposure to very cold water, ice, snow, wind, and it has to exclude any kind of major trauma, including blunt and penetrating. Because if they have a blunt or penetrating injury, there's a large chance that if we try to cannulate them and put them on ECMO, we also have to anticoagulate them, and that would probably intensify their injuries. The first step of this, and I know it's an algorithm, but I wanted to just point out a couple of things. Every patient deserves basic care, right? So we're not asking that you do nothing with these patients. We're asking that you support, give them PAL support and transport them, okay? The caveat, remember when I talked about, I kind of skimmed this really quick, but hypothermia slows circulation. And so one of the things you have to think about is if you have slow to no circulation, if you continue to give epinephrine over and over and over again, it actually causes a toxic effect in the body in these patients who are hypothermic, okay? So we would ask that you limit epinephrine to 3 doses, which if you've ever been in medicine or resuscitation, 3 doses seems like a blink of an eye, right? And it is just trying to have this patient have the best outcome possible. As we're going through this and we're screening these patients, their core temp has to be less than 30 degrees. When we talk about a core temp, that's not, oh, I touched your forehead or I took this. It's either a rectal or it's an esophageal probe that would have to be less than 30 degrees. So as this resuscitation occurs, the other big thing that we look for is their potassium. Studies have shown that if the potassium is greater than 9 during resuscitation, the patient will not have a successful outcome, and there's not a reason to continue in this resuscitation. Or if they're submerged greater than 90 minutes. Those are the 2 big caveats, okay? So if our patient qualifies for all of these steps, then we go ahead and we place them on an ECMO circuit. This is what I call the magic, because to me, I think, sorry, my patient froze, their heart stopped, and now you're telling me you're going to put them on a magic machine, warm them up, make their heart beat, breathe for them basically, and then the patient may or may not come back. That just seems a little bit outside the scope of normal thinking, so I call it the magic. This is just a little picture of an ECMO circuit for children. It's very similar, same exact way that you use or that you would cannulate an adult. The difference being for children is that an ECMO circuit has to be specific to their weight. So at Primary Children's, we use 2 different ECMO circuits. And anybody who's taken PALS understands that kids are smaller. They might get the same interventions, but it's just a very tiny dose, right? And so it probably doesn't surprise you that the circulating blood volume for an adult in an ECMO circuit would be different than an infant, okay? Okay, that was super quick, and I like ran through it super quick, so feel free to ask questions, but the summary. Prevention is always the best treatment. Hypothermia can be a good thing even when the worst thing happens. Magic has happened, and the case studies and research support it. And there are times when you do need to change your approach, whether it be expedited transport or decreasing epinephrine doses. So guys, let's make magic happen. That's it. Feel free to email me or pop into the chat with questions.
You know, I don't know who might know this. Ty might have been the one to ask this, but have you guys had or seen in your experience any of the lakes that put the signs up that say they've had this many fatalities with life jackets and this many without? Does anybody know if they do that in Utah?
I'm not sure, but I do not think they do have those signs yet. So that would be a good place to start. I know we talked about putting up signs that just educate about life jackets. We're just trying to come up with a design that people will read and has an impact. I know State Parks has been really good about coming up with all their social media stuff is really either funny or really traumatic looking, just to get people to pay attention to it. So I think that might be a really good option.
Mikkel, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't the one at Utah Lake dedicated to 2 girls who lost their lives?
Yep. So the life jacket loaner stations, especially, we've found that people, if they can remember a story, are a lot more absorbent of information. So those 2 girls that she's referring to lost their lives, I think, in 2020, went out on paddle boards and didn't have life jackets. And so their family is actually attending the events on Saturday. So they come every year and have a really cool event where they paddleboard with Coast Guard jet ski support across Utah Lake and remember them. So it's just a really cool event, along with being a water safety event for the community.
Michelle, I invite you to jump in and add anything that you might have to with Safe Kids or anything they're doing. I know you're busy today, so couldn't join the panel, but anything you want to add, and then definitely open up if anybody else has questions, put them in the chat or come off mute.
Yeah, we just have a few resources at Primaries. I appreciated both Mikkel and Lindy's presentations. They covered so many of the talking points and the things that we also do at Primary Children's. We do have also those water watcher cards on lanyards, and happy to provide those as well. We already have them printed out, so you don't have to print them from Safe Kids, but kind of the same concept, where it's just a lanyard that you wear that designates someone in charge. Oftentimes you have a whole group of people and everyone's there at the pool and no one's watching. And those are the times when those accidents happen. And unfortunately, in the role that I'm in, it happened at a family party just a couple summers ago, and it was my child who was able to save his cousin, that he was the one that caught it. Right. And it's recognizing that it really can happen to you and it can happen to any of us. So taking that extra step and being that one who's vigilant, who takes that water watcher card and is the bully who says, we are going to do this and everyone's going to take a turn. And we also have just the Be Smart Around Water. It's a 2-sided safety card, and we talk about boating, pools, and also bathtubs, because unfortunately that also is one of the problems. And it's just double-sided in English and in Spanish. And happy to mail those out to anyone who wants these resources as well. If you just want to email me, it's just my name, michelle.jameson@imail.org.
Everyone's so quiet today. I wish Ty would have stayed on because I have a running joke with him that I'm not going to wear my life jacket when I am, just sitting on the boat, even though I do now because I hear Ty's voice in my head of reminding me. And for those of you who have pets, remember pets need life jackets too, especially with cold water. I'll put that out there as well because I love my pets. Ruth loves her pets. I don't know if your pets swim, Ruth, but
No, but I'll tell you, I went to Payson Lake and it was very low, of course, because of the water levels. And I thought I wasn't wearing a life jacket and thought I can paddle myself backwards across this lake and really learned a lesson. I was glad I made it, but man, I was tired and I swim and the water was cold, so we get a little too much confidence and yeah.
I think that's maybe something that I didn't say this year is people overestimate their abilities and underestimate the elements, right? Like that's
the distance.
Totally something I've done before.
You don't understand, it is very interesting. Your perception is off on how far you actually have to go to get to the other side or wherever you're going. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Or Jamie, I think she keeps hopping off.
I'm sure it's not intentional.
I know. Yeah. There she is.
been like clockwork. For 5 minutes, I've been being kicked out. So I don't know if anybody else had any other questions, but just a reminder, everybody's going to get a survey, post-presentation survey that has some questions from each person's presentation and an eval on all of our speakers. Thanks for joining us. And Ruth has it going on for next month. So she'll let us know what next month's injury prevention learning series is. I'm throwing her in the deep end, but with a life jacket, I promise. So again, yeah. So thanks, Mikkel. Thanks, Lindy. Thanks, Michelle, for jumping in. I'll send Ty a thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And we will see you guys next time.